Hello and welcome to another episode of Catholic Mindset. Today we're talking about grief. This is a very important topic for a lot of people. A lot of people go through this and they don't share it. And a lot of people see it and experience it and don't know how to handle it and how to deal with it. Today's guests, we have Bea, Briceno, and Gonzalo, Lauria. They both lead a bereavement group where they help people during grieving, especially grief due to the loss of a loved one. In this episode, we're breaking down what grief is and the stages of grief. We talk about how your faith can help you through the process. We will learn how to help someone who is grieving and what not to say to someone that's grieving. Join us and get to know Bea and Gonzalo as they teach us how to handle grief and support those we love. Welcome to Catholic Mindset Podcast, where we will explore Catholic fundamentals. I am your host, Alejandro Cervali. Join me as I explore the plethora of knowledge of our faith. Every part of our being is created in the image of God, including our minds. We must begin to imitate the mindset of Christ Jesus. What we learn here, I encourage you to contemplate, practice, and incorporate. We will look into the basics, prayers, traditions, histories, and practices used by our church to gain union with Christ. I pray that what you learn here enriches your heart and soul. Please subscribe to the podcast and sign up for our newsletter. Information in the show notes. Bea, Gonzalo, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us today. How are you guys?
Thank you, Alejandro, for inviting us today. Oh, it's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Alejandro. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, I am excited because this is a very interesting topic that we're going to talk about today, which is grief, which is part of our Catholic faith and experience, I don't think it's something that people talk about a lot. You know, they experience it and they seek help when they're going through it, but those that are not don't know a lot about it. So I'm glad that we're talking about grief, especially when you have friends or people that you love that are experiencing it through it, which is one of the things we're going to talk about today, is how to deal with grief or how to help people. I'm excited.
Thank you. I'm excited too.
So before we begin, let's get to know you guys a little bit. Bea, would you like to go first? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I'm Beatriz Briceno, and I have three little girls, Fabiana, Federica, and Fernanda. I'm from Venezuela. And I lost my husband, Gustavo, a year and a half ago. He battled against cancer for a year, colon cancer. And so I've been in the process of grief ever since he was diagnosed with cancer. That was in 2018.
What about you, Gonzalo?
Gonzalo, Lauria. I'm also from Venezuela, a cousin of Gustavo, Bea's husband. The reason I got involved in grief is I'm going through a training program in spiritual companionship, not knowing anything about bereavement. The father, JC, here at our parish, he mentioned that he wanted to have a bereavement ministry. And I didn't have a clue what it was. But I talked to the director of my program, and they actually had a training program for parishes to create bereavement ministries. And that was the reason I got involved in this. I really wasn't thinking about what we were going to do, and I didn't have Gustavo's death in my mind at that time. It wasn't really what we were expecting when we started this program.
And you mean bereavement or griefment?
Bereavement is usually the way the broad definition that they use for these kind of ministries.
Okay.
And within the bereavement ministry, we have this grief support group.
Got it. All right. So grief. Let's start by defining grief before we break it down. What is grief?
The most common definition is, I have it written here, which I think grief is often defined as the emotional reaction to loss. The thing is, this definition can be limited. It is not understood properly, because feelings are important part of grief, but they're not the whole story. So in addition to feelings, the bereaved person may experience reactions that are distinctively cognitive, physical, behavioral, social, or spiritual in nature. it can be defined as the emotional reaction to loss, but it's definitely much more than that.
And before we jumped on the podcast, you guys were talking about that there are stages to the grief.
Grief is an organic process that it comes as it comes. And a doctor named Elizabeth Kubler-Ross that defined grief through stages. She did this investigation for terminal patients at the end of their life. And she came out that the patients went through these stages through their grief before dying. And also that after dying, the relatives went through these stages as well. The importance of these stages is to know that these are not stages that go linear. They can go in different moments during your grief time. And maybe they appear, the 5 of them, maybe only one, or you can stay in one for a long time, and then you can jump to the 3rd one or to the 4th one, but it doesn't have a time frame that you go into them. So the first stage of grief will be shock or denial for what you're living. And most of the people stay here for a long time. If you stay here for a long time or forever and you don't move forward, because in grief, you don't move on, you move forward. You can get to your life a lot of emotional trash because in the denial of not accepting that someone is dead, you can start living your life trying to cover your feelings instead of living them. So what I would say the importance of these stages is that you need to feel them, each of them. And you have to know that it's okay not to be okay. And taking a pause in grief in each of the stages. So the first will be the denial or the shock. The second one will be the pain and the guilt. Guilt, it's something that is very common. What if during the guilt? I'm talking about death during this grief. I'm talking because there's different griefs. I mean, you can have a grief of a pet, you can have a grief of a job, you have a grief of land, you have several griefs in your life. I'm talking right now the grieving of a relative that died. So David Kastner, who is a wonderful person about grief, he says there's a fact, and the fact is this person died. No matter what if I could have done this or that. Death is there, and death is something that comes. It's a roller coaster. You're in shock, then you get into the guilt, and then comes the anger, and you get very angry. You can get very angry with your loved one that died because he died, or you can get very angry with you. You can get very angry with everything that goes in the world around. After that will come the depression. That is a natural reaction in grief because it's a way to react. What we say is if we stay here for a long, long time, then it can get to a critical or medical problem. Then comes the acceptance that this person died, and it takes time. I can't say how long. Every person has a unique grief. So what is for you, it's not for me. So the acceptance of knowing the person is no longer here, it can take however long. And there's a new stage of grief that David Kessler came with. It's finding a meaning about this death. So I would say after this resurrection, after this light that comes afterwards, you find a meaning. So that's when people create foundations about cancer or something that comes with the griefs that they went through. These are the stages: shock, pain, anger, depression, acceptance, and now the finding meaning, which is not linear. It's a roller coaster, and you can be at any point at any time. You can be like so happy now, and then it triggers you something, and you come to the anger, and it triggers you, and you go to the guilt. At the beginning, it's like very short, like the mountain. It's very short, and then the time goes and it flows a little bit separate. So you don't go up and down in a day that many times. So what I feel important in these stages of grief is who you are in the pain. For me, it is very important to sit down and feel every stage, who you are in the pain, who you are in the anger, who you are in the depression, who you are in the acceptance. And this is not something that you chose. This is something that happened to you. After saying this happened to me, who am I in this pain? And that's when I say you get out through the stages. Who am I here? How do I react when I am angry? How do I react when I am depressed? And that's how, for me, it's a tool to get moving through each part of the grief.
So understanding who you are during the stages, how do you react or respond to them, helps you move through them?
I would say yes. I would say yes, because you get to sit with it. You get to sit with your pain. You get to know who you are. You get to know what you want. You get to know what are you feeling. Feeling the pain, feeling the suffering, it's something that we don't like. And that's when you can get into the denial. You can get there forever, and you can get involved in very trashy emotional things. You need to know what is going on with you. You need to feel you. You get to know who you are. And that's where you're going to know through these laws, there's a lot of things that you're going to win. But the only way you can know this is pausing yourself, sitting there, in feeling everything that is going, and recognizing that you are angry, and you say, you know what? Today I am angry. I am angry in saying out loud to a friend, to someone, saying, I am angry because I envy people who have their husbands right now, and I don't. I feel angry, and you can recognize your feelings. And so that's the way you can know what you are going through and what's going on in you.
How do you recommend someone to sit and feel? Is it something you do alone? Is it something you do with someone? Or is it, how do you do that? How do I sit in my stages? Do I just sit here and I'm like,
yeah, it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah.
I was in a bereavement group, and I learned that that phrase, you have to sit with it. And that was a question who came into my mind. I said, yeah, how? Okay, so I stay the whole day in a chair sitting with it? No, you need to find a space. There's something important in grief. You have to pamper yourself. You need to have a me time every day. So it can be praying, it can be walking, it can be having a coffee, it can be sitting you alone and thinking what's going on with me at the end of the day. So that's when I would say that's how you're going to sit with it, and getting to know your feelings and expressing them to the person or to the people, and getting to express what you want. And this is very important, because through grief you have symptoms that go with your grief. So you lose appetite, there's a loss of appetite, there's a loss of memory. I mean, I find myself like Dory, the Nemo one, the little fishy, and I am like that. I have been like that like for 2 years. I keep forgetting. And I tell my friends, I have memory loss. And I know that it's a part of grief. I didn't know that. At the beginning, I would say, like, what's going on with me? I keep forgetting everything. And it's a part of grief. It's a process. And your sense of humor changes everything. But you need to know that. Talking to people who are experiencing grief or who are going through the process of grief would let you know that that's perfectly normal, because feeling depressed, feeling angry can get a lot of guilt in you. So talking to people around you who are going through grief and saying, listen, I don't know what's going on with me. I have this pain here that I can barely breathe. So a person that has been going through grief will tell you that's okay. It's going to be there for a while. So you say, I would sit with this pain because I know that 100 people, 1 million people are going through this. And they are telling me that this pain, the sharp pain, will pass. Doesn't mean that the love is going to end. Pain will pass, shall pass. And that's when I say the faith goes within this. I mean, if you have faith, it's something that it's a win-win to you.
Yeah, definitely what you believe in determines a lot of how you deal with your grief. And that's what we see in our experience here at the parish, in the group. And I can make it personal. I mean, in my case, I lost my mother suddenly about 3 years ago, and believing that she is in some other place, that she didn't die spiritually, and that she's still here with us. And when we as Catholics, for example, when we go to Mass and we take communion, we are in communion with also the people who are not physically here with us. So to me, that is very helpful to deal with my loss. In other ways that it helps me, and I know it helps everyone in the group that we have here, is to maintain that relationship with the one who died. It's not like they died and they disappear. So if we believe that people transform through death, but they still exist, and we can still have that relationship with the dead one, that definitely helps a lot and makes the grief work significantly healthier, because we like Bea was saying, we don't try to move on. We keep trying to move forward, but we acknowledge that person's still there, that relationship still exists. We don't try to shut down the relationship and go on believing that that person disappeared and we will not be with that person again. So our belief system determines how we go through our grief and how we deal with some of these emotions.
Got it. I like that part, that when we go to Mass, we're in communion with the ones that we lose. A lot of people don't know that part, that when we go through the Mass, is we're in communion with the whole church, right?
Yeah, one thing, Alejandro, that being exposed to many losses even in the last year that we have been active in this group, that you realize some of these losses are impossible to deal with. You find yourself without words. You can't say, you feel like you can't say anything to help the other person heal. But one of the things that we find that is very effective, and we have some testimonies about that, is receiving the Eucharist, being in touch with God, and being present in what the Catholics call the communion of the saints. There we're in communion with the living and the dead. There we're all together. For me, and I think for many people, that moment, it's a moment where we're all together and we're in touch with our loved one. Maybe Bea, you can say how that helps you. But like I said, I've seen many people, and there is one person who had significant losses in the last year, and she's an Eucharistic minister. She gives communion to other people here in the parish, and what she says is that really helped her, deal with her losses and feel peace as she was experiencing all these losses. So that is the kind of stories that we hear.
When we did the pre-podcast conversation, which I enjoyed very much, there are things that we normally want to say, right, to someone who's grieving, but we should not. So what is the right way to help someone through the process? What can we say? What can we not say? What's the right thing to do? What can we do?
Okay, I know Gonzalo has a list that we have made together, and we have come with a lot of things that we have learned through this time. I would say helping a friend or helping someone, a family member who is going through grief, it's just being there. It's just listening. It's just being patient. It's just being tolerant. It's getting to know that that person is going through a lot of mood changes, a lot of pressure, a lot of numbness, and that sometimes we want to rush that people. I know that there are people that say, like, no, you have to go out, the person who is going to be on the side of that person has to be like a little soldier on the side, being like a shoulder, and that's it. You have to be silent. Every word, everything that you say, it's going to go against that person who's feeling. Trying to not to pressure on what you want that person to do. Just let that person be at that moment. And if that person wants to be angry, let them be angry. If that person wants to eat a burger every day, you would say, like, no, you have to eat healthy. No, let that person be at that moment. That person needs you on the side. That person needs you there in silence. And it's sometimes you say, what do you want? What do you want from me? Do you want help? The person that is grieving doesn't even know what she wants or he wants. I mean, it's that person doesn't even know. So don't ask. Just be there and be aware of what she might need and bring it to her. Bring it to him. I mean, it's bring it to that person. Don't ask, because questions can be overwhelming as well. So leaving space to the person. If that person wants to be alone, if you don't agree with that, it's up to you. But that person wants to be alone. I remember one person saying to me one day, like, we have inviting you to our house every single weekend, and we're not going to invite you anymore because you have been saying no. That the person who's grieving doesn't need that. That's another grieve that you're putting on. That's a lot of weight you're putting that. I mean, if I would say to you, yes, Alejandro, do you want to have coffee? Yes, at 5:00. And if that person at 5:00 doesn't show up because there was a memory loss or doesn't want to come out of bed or whatever reason, don't take it personally. That person is grieving. And it's a decision also. I think being a person who wants to be there for a friend who's grieving, it's a decision, and it comes out along with a lot of patience, with a lot of love, with a lot of tolerance. The person should also know what grieving is and ask the community who has been going through grief what to expect or what to do with a friend that is in grief. Leaving space is very important. Getting to know that person, whether likes, dislikes. And I remember that I wanted to eat pound cake for a whole week, morning, lunch, and dinner. That's all I wanted to eat, pound cake. I had tried all the pound cakes in the Keep because my best friends knew that that's the only thing that I wanted to eat. So they didn't even try to push myself to eat sushi or salad or whatever. I wanted to eat pound cake. The whole community brought pound cake to me. That's it. I mean, I think it's a decision. It's very brave to be on a side along with a person that touch base. Weekends are awful for people grieving. It's something that I have been getting to know in groups and everything. Weekends are awful. So you can reach out, you can knock the door. That person would say, no, I don't want to do anything today. But if you knock the door and bring a flower or bring something, that's something that pampers the person who's grieving. Getting to know the people who are grieving, that you're there, but not like too much in there.
So if I understand correctly, I have taken my notes here. My notes I have. So one, I would say accompanying Be that shoulder, but don't say anything, right? But then we have 2 is be aware of their needs. So trying to like anticipate things that they, from your relationship with them that you've had in the past, things that they may have liked in the past, things that you could bring to them, or right, stuff like that. Space, give space. Don't try to be too imposing. 4, do not take things personal. I like that. Like if you invite them out, they're grieving, and that you invite them out for a coffee and they don't show, it's okay. I would say even at the top of the list, I would put educate yourself on what grieve is. And lastly, do not impose any of what you think the person should do on them.
Yes. It's good to put on the things that I get. Hey, you're invited to this. Not to not invite the person, because that's awful. You invite a person. That's a decision of the person who's grieving to go or not. That's important, because I would say, like, no, don't call Alejandro, because Alejandro, his dad died 2 weeks ago and he would not want, because he's grieving. No, you don't know if Alejandro wants to go or not. Just knock the door, say, Alejandro, you want to come? And Alejandro would decide at that moment, at that time. I've been invited to a lot of events that I say yes, that I'm already dressed up. And at that moment that I'm walking out the door, I said, no, I don't want to come. It happens to me. It happened to me this Saturday. I was in an event. In the middle of the event, I wanted to run away, and I ran. And it was okay. And I'm already 18 months grieving. I took the step to go out, to have fun. I was having fun, and here comes the stages of grief. I was having fun. I was happy. I was dancing. And in the middle of the thing, something happened. I wanted to come back home, and I cried for a long time. And I was very angry because I was alone. And I woke up in the morning and I was fine.
What can I say or not say? I know I can't say anything, but at some point I have to say something.
Well, you can say something, but there's some things that you cannot say, and it's a no, and we have the list. We have come with that magic list that you, Alejandro, you say, oh my God, I've said those things so many times.
Yes. So, okay, let's do that. Let's dive into that list of the things not to say.
I have a list here, so I can, and there many of them are related to God. The top of the list is it was God's will. That's a no. There's another one. He and she lived a long life. You should be glad that he or she is not suffering anymore. He's in a better place. She's in a better place. She wouldn't want you to cry. You are young. You can have another child. You are young. You can find someone else. God never gives you more than you can handle. This will make you stronger. God is testing you. God needed her more than we needed her. You know you have a guardian angel in heaven. Time heals all wounds. God is in control. Everything happens for a reason. She's a flower in God's garden. You have other children. It all happened for the best. It was her or his time to go. He or she is at peace now. Be grateful you had him, as long as you did. Be strong. Keep busy. It will take your mind off things. I know just how you feel. It's time to move on. Her death was a blessing. I don't know if you want to add more to that, Bea.
Some of these things are real. The person who's grieving, it's going to get to know those things in their grief.
And also, Bea, I think it's okay if I am the one grieving and I tell myself these things. Okay, it's different if I am the one going through grief and I use some of these, or if I believe some of these as sentences and I tell these to myself. That's fine.
That's fine.
Okay. But what is not fine is if I go out and tell somebody else who's grieving, one of these lines.
So why is it not a good idea to say these things to the person grieving?
My husband was dying, and a person on the side was saying, "You're young to reconstruct your life." And I had a lot of pain. I mean, maybe that person, I had a lot of pain that I was losing my loved one. How can you come and say that I will reconstruct my life 48 hours, then my loved one is no longer here? I mean, who are you to say that? If I want the person, and I would say also, he is in a better place. How do you know? I know how you feel. How do you know how I feel? God sends to the battles to the best soldier. I don't want to be a soldier. So how can God send something to me if I don't want to be a soldier? I don't want to fight this. And how does God know? And that's when anger comes. Because our words can make the anger to God, to that person that grieves, bigger. Because we are involving God in God's business, something that we do not know. What we know is that God comes and is with us through the grief. And how is God with us through the grief? Because there's friends, there's a community, there's people around us, the support, and that's God that sends those persons to accompany, to keep us in that battle. But we cannot say that God sent this to me because I'm a good soldier and I needed to do this battle. And it is okay to be angry with God. And it's part of the process. Okay. The thing is, in that angry, you can stay forever. You can stay forever. And you're going to be miserable if you stay angry with God forever. Why? Why? Because it's something that doesn't have to be with him. It's humanity also. I mean, if a car accident comes, it hits your loved one or something, it's something that happened. It's a fact. Time will heal. Yes, it will heal. But you need God on your side, because you need to recognize that people around you, and those are sent by God. And we cannot stay in the death. We need to stay in the part of the lived. I mean, what we live with those people. If you stay in the death part, that's when you're stuck in grief. You stay in the anger, you stay in the pain, you stay fighting there. It is totally normal to be angry, because you need to be angry, because this happened to you and you were not expecting it. And you didn't choose to lose your mom or your dad during COVID time and not say goodbye to that person. You didn't choose 40-year-old dad with 3 girls to die in a cancer situation. But that's your life, and that's what you have now in your life. And what are you going to do? You're going to stay angry all your life, or you're going to, in honor of that person who lived, who loved, who you loved, you're going to keep on moving forward, honoring that person's life. So that's a decision you have to make. And with God, I can tell you, Alejandro, I'm a spiritual companion, and I can see the difference between the people who have faith and the people who do not have faith. They stay there in the stages of anger for a long time. So I would recommend the people who are grieving to feel in the pain. It's okay not to be okay. Having me times, recognizing what's going on, and also watering that faith, going through communion. Communion is very important. It's a part of it. Going to communion, it's a lot of humility. It's a lot of things that you have to accept. That Eucharist time will bring you peace. It's going to give you tolerance. It's going to give you a lot of things that you need for the grief.
I know that we are running out of time, so I have one more question for you guys. Here in St. Agnes, I know that we have the grief support group, which I didn't know we had, but it's also new, right? Like 2 years or something like that. Do you guys want to tell us about it?
It would actually, it's not even 2 years. We began the training about 2 years ago, but the group actually started in January 2020. And then the pandemic came. We started meeting to learn, like you said before, Alejandro, to learn about grief. We didn't know exactly where we were going to take this group because, like Bea mentioned, is we have different type of losses. So we could have a group for the loss of a loved one, but also for the loss of a job or the loss of health or some other losses. But very soon we came to the conclusion that this group should focus on the loss of loved ones. That's what we started doing. And we started meeting once every 2 weeks. And the original group was probably, I don't know, I think 5, 7 in total, Bea being one of them. And the group really started to accompany Bea in many ways. But very soon we started having, through the funeral masses and the activity at the church and led by Father Juan Carlos Paguaga, he started referring people to the group. And that's how the group has been developing. We have meetings every 2 weeks. All of these meetings, or many of them, have been through Zoom. We have had some masses and adorations. And every 2 weeks, we get 1, 2, 3, or more people joining the group for the first time. Basically, what we do in that group, it has to do a lot with what we were talking here. There are some rules that are basic. We don't give advice. We don't judge people when they tell their stories. We only talk about ourselves. We don't preach in this group, okay? We don't tell people what they should do or what God wants them to feel or do. We just talk about, what we're going through, where we are in our process. And a lot what happens in that group is that when I tell my story, somebody else relates to that story. So something comes up in their grief process that ignited by whatever I'm saying. Most of our meetings, we pose questions. Bea is great at bringing questions to the group that make people think about their loss and their grief process. And we share our answers or our reactions to those questions. Sometimes we feel the need to have somebody to give us a talk. And we have priests who have given us talks, other experts in grief who come and talk to us. So that is kind of the dynamic of the group. And for now, we're dealing with every type of losses of loved ones. I mean, parents who have lost their children, someone who has lost their spouse, or people who have lost their parents, brothers, sisters, friends. So it can be anyone, and the group is open to anyone who's going through a loss that it's emotionally challenging.
I would say these group bring the hope that listening to people who are going through the same thing that you, maybe that there are a little bit more experience in the grief, you see them talking and you have this sharp pain that you can barely talk, and you can see that person who has 6 or 4 more months than you, that she's breathing, and you say, I want to breathe like her. And she says things that helps you, like a little tool and a word or something. And these questions, like, for example, what have you accomplished recently? If someone doesn't ask you that, you don't recognize it and say, like, oh, now I'm able to pay all the bills. Now I'm able to do this. Now, the other day I was able to fix a little bulb, and I was not used to that. And now, so these questions would guide you to know that your life will never be the same after the grief, after the person who died, or after something that you lost, your job, your land, or whatever. That stay on the past. These questions, these groups, they help you to have hope, like that light at the end of the tunnel. In my experience, I recommend people to try these groups. It's not that I'm selling here something, but this is something that it's a gift. I mean, I didn't want it to assist. I assisted because Gonzalo said, listen, if we want to start the group, we need to assist other groups. So I went to another bereavement group outside Key Biscayne. And then I said, like, during the pandemic, I sat there with a lot of people who were in different losses. And then I came to my parish, and then I came to this group and while we were building. And it's amazing how you see that now that I have 18 months, I can pull out a person that it's 5 days only that had losses. I can see there and I can say it's okay. And she's going to believe me because I am going through the same pain. It's not going to believe someone that it says, oh, it's going to be okay to lose your husband. How do you know if you haven't lost your husband? But if you're sitting with a person who have lost the husband, as you are going to believe that person because that person went through the same thing. I cannot say to Gonzalo, oh, it must be terrible. Hey, I know how it feels to lose your mom because I haven't lost mine.
And I think a beautiful thing that you can observe participating in these groups is something that Bea mentioned about finding meaning in your loss. And what she just said to me, it's a way to find meaning in your loss because you know now that you can be there for somebody else. And I've seen people, with extreme pain that when they hear somebody express their pain, they come out of their pain and they go out and help. And this happens even in the meetings. I mean, people go out of their own pain and they focus on somebody else's pain and they tell their story so they can help that person to have hope, like Bea was saying. So to see a little bit of light and see how the process is going to move along. We have people in this group who have lost their children 25 years ago. And they come to every meeting. And as painful as it is to talk about their loss, which happened 25 years ago, they know that by doing that, they're helping somebody else. And I believe, and sometimes I think I can see the healing that takes place when somebody is talking about a loss, that happened 25 years ago. You're still healing. It's like you never really, the process never ends. I mean, you just grow over, but the loss is still there, and the size of the loss is still the same size. So it's like your one concept that I like, Bea, that we haven't mentioned before, but is this thing that your life gets bigger, but your loss stays the same size. It's like you're saying, before you wouldn't pay checks. Now you know about paying checks. But it's because your life is expanding, not because your loss is smaller. That's what I see. The losses are still there, and the life, of many of these people get larger.
Bea, Gonzalo, thank you so much for joining us today and to talk about this very sensitive topic. I definitely have learned a lot. I encourage anyone who's listening, to reach out to the local parish to see if they have any bereavement groups or grief support groups and participate. So thank you again for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alejandro, for inviting us.